Hi, it's your girl Michaela from Live, Learn, and Exercise, the podcast. I often think, gosh, I just have some amazing friends with the most interesting backgrounds in education, profession, life story, and the most powerful experiences that they've shared. And today is no different, as I welcome my good friend Tabitha, and she's a former colleague as well. And we discuss this idea of being strong, in our case, is strong Black women, as we maneuver through different spaces. For us as parents, as senior leaders in organizations, as cultural minorities, and a whole slew of other contexts. This was one of the topics that you all submitted online, so I want you to keep contacting me through the website, www.livelearnexercise.com, and of course, via Instagram and TikTok. You can also find this show on Spotify. Okay, let's consider some things for today. The first question I want to pose is, have you ever had to filter, edit, or even mute yourself just to keep the peace or just to fit into a space? How about, is it possible that your strength or the strength of another actually handicaps the people around them? And last but not least, I want you to think about how others, people, you, right? How we can create spaces for strong others, leaders, mothers, Black women, whomever, to actually fall back a little bit, to take a pause, to relinquish control, to decrease stress, and to really be softer and more laid back. If that's what they want to do, of course, and we get into that as well. So, strength amidst chaos. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Live, Learn, and Exercise. I'm here with my good friend Tabitha. This is my girl. I can't wait to get into all the things. But let's start just by you giving a brief introduction to who you are and go into all your greatness.
Oh my goodness. So, I think for me, I have just built a professional career around leading people and guiding and mentoring and coaching. I think that I just have a passion for it, like just meeting different individuals, learning about them. You use that in your daily life. I use that in my, corporate life. I use that in my mom life. Really just understanding people and then helping to drive them is really what I've built a career around. And so if you look back at my resume, which we won't get into, that's really what it is. It's people. It's just, guiding people, mentoring people, inspiring people. And that's the business that I like to be in. So
I think that we can get into your resume because it's pretty impressive. And I think any opportunity to spotlight Black girl magic is a opportunity worth taking and having. And so I intend to do that today.
Awesome.
Dote on you a little bit. One of the things I want to start with, because we got into this conversation yesterday, was this idea of maneuvering spaces as strong Black women. Yeah. Now, that term can be and has historically been used as a trope, as something to negatively identify Black women who are outspoken, who say a little too much, who do a little too much, who have a little bit too much passion. It's been a trope to kind of diminish us. I wear it as a badge of honor. I am a strong Black woman. You are. But that doesn't negate from the fact that it can sometimes be tough to maneuver spaces. So maybe I want to hear your opinion on maneuvering that space as a senior level executive. We definitely talked about being in that space as a mother of Black boys, which is very, very unique. So talk to me a little bit about your experience as, in many cases, the only Black woman in the room, the Black leader of teams that may not be of your same gender and race, and kind of go into that.
Yeah, I think it really stems from my childhood. I'm the oldest of, 5, but 3 direct brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest of them. And my father constantly moved north. we constantly moved north. So started in like the Gaithersburg, Maryland area, Montgomery County, moved up to Germantown. And then when that got overpopulated, he made a conscious effort to move his family to Frederick, Maryland. And really that's where I spent the majority of my, I'd say, middle school to high school age. And it was a shell shock because the Frederick that you know today is not the Frederick that I grew up in. It was all farmlands, lots of animals, and a very quiet area. And that's specifically strategically why he did it. He wanted to move his family as far away from the city because of all the things that happen in the city. And he wanted to protect us girls. So I have a sister who we're 13 months apart, and then I've got a younger brother. And then around 13, my parents, divorced. And so both of them got remarried, and so I've got two brothers from those situations. But I will say that was my first experience with just being different, and I didn't know why in the moment, why like some of the children would treat me a little differently, and then there wasn't a lot that really looked like me and my sister. My sister's got blonde hair. I've got the green eyes. So it's like there was nobody that looked like us.
You're like too light to be with the Black people, but you're definitely not white.
That's right.
White, white enough to be in those spaces.
Yeah,
I get it.
Very mixed culture that I come from in backgrounds, and so it was a shell shock for me to just develop friends. And I would say that was probably the most introverted part of my life that I've been. Most people who meet me today would say, "Oh, she's not introverted at all," but I am actually a little bit introverted, a little bit more reserved. And I find that has, because of the way that my father kind of moved me, it's kind of shaped me even in my professional career as what I am, which is a mixed, Black woman. And I find that, that helps me to be grounded in kind of like my roots of who I am. But it also does shape how you are looked at in the industry and how you handle situations. The terminology of, being aggressive, or the terminology around being assertive. Those are things that I think are words in the community that can hit a certain way. And when you deal with that, it's because we're really passionate about explaining, or whatever it is it could be. And so I've found that I've had to, in my career, kind of hold that back a little bit. And so my approach to situations, I think, is probably opposite of yours, because you wear it as a badge. You wear the badge of honor. And I feel like I'm more like I take in the room because of my childhood, how I was taught. I kind of take in the room, I read it a little bit, and then I understand how passionate I can be. Can I be as passionate about this topic in these meetings? Can I be, what group of people am I with? Can I really express myself? And so that kind of bleeds into like being your authentic self. Whether you are or you aren't. I feel like for me, I have to like turn it on, turn it off.
And how is that? Okay, so we've known each other now over 5 years. We have worked together closely, building an industry-leading diversity and inclusion board together, building teams within our organization, raising Black boys alongside each other. So you handle it that way. As your friend, how do I handle it?
You're very protective of your people, and you're very outwardly spoken to raise awareness to when something's not right. And you have that voice, and you give that voice. And I respect and I admire that, because there are definitely some specific things where I will not walk away if it is important enough and it has severely impacted an individual. I'm not the type of person that in the moment, if something's happened, to walk away from that. But I am the type of person to maybe take it and reflect on it. And you in the moment are passionate about it because you're like, wait a minute. This is not right. Let's approach this a different way. Let's have a different conversation around this. And you address it right then and there. And so I respect that.
And I respect your way of dealing with it too. Now this wasn't always like, we understand each other type thing. I think took us a little while to really understand each other and really appreciate the different perspectives, because I think it made us stronger when we figured out how to actually make space for both of those approaches as women in the same space. I think we became powerful, and our relationship grew. But you're right. In the moment, when I see an injustice, when I feel like someone is touting me or someone in my orbit as aggressive, especially when they're in a marginalized population. And especially when we see members of dominant populations behave the same and even more extreme, and they have not been called those things. Oh, it's almost like boiling my blood. Like I can't even take it. And I remember having a conversation with you about being in an interview one time. And someone asking me a question that essentially implied that I was aggressive in an interview. And I was like, I couldn't even understand why you weren't like trying to torch the place like I was. And I was appalled. I was like, I can't believe they would say something like that. And you were like, wait a minute. And you were asking me a lot of questions that in that moment actually did allow me to temper myself. Now, I ended up with the same feeling like, nah, this is wrong. And I'm going to address this strongly. But in that moment, I appreciated how you processed it and actually forced me to articulate in professional terms why that was inappropriate. So yes, I appreciated that about you. But yeah, we definitely do have different approaches to that. Has there ever been a situation where in the moment you were sort of labeled as aggressive or too passionate and you had to address it head on? Or tell me about those experiences and how you maneuvered them.
So I want to chime in on that issue. And in the moment when you were like really upset about this individual who kind of attacked it was an assassination of just your credibility as a senior leader, right? And in that moment, I think I was so new to the company that we were at the time that I didn't understand if there was some bias or some specific targeted reasons why that individual took the stance they took. And so I did have a totally different lens and a totally different perspective, right? And you knew what it was because you had felt it before, and I was so green and new that I didn't understand it in that moment. And so, for me to take it away and process it was kind of like a natural response to those situations. To answer your question, I don't think that there has been a direct moment that specifically affected me where I spoke up in the moment and took that stance. And I think it is a direct reflection of how I was raised, to be honest. In our household, it was kind of like you speak when you're spoken to, and there's an authority, there's a hierarchy on how that is, and you respect, you're the person who's above you and your leader. And so I have experience, working alongside the same industry and being close to you where, a leader has said some things that I didn't necessarily agree with, and I took a mental note of it, and in my emotional intelligence was able to take it back and let it sit with me and think it through. And I have been able to make decisions on do I address this with this person or do I just let it go and figure out a plan and move forward? Now, the instances where I have stepped up in the moment is like with my kids. Don't come for my kids. So don't come for my kids. I have a specific moment of that of me just preparing my sons for financial understanding. I feel like the school system lacks a lot of that. Kids don't know how to write checks. They don't know what a check is. They don't know how to date it. They barely know their signature. Fortunate for me, my kids, like your kids, were in private school for a very long time. Yours is still in private school. And so they learned how to actually sign their name, which I understand the public schools have taken that away. And in financial preparedness, my son has his credit card. I had him prepared to go into a store, and I was trying to really inspire him to want to be on his own to make a purchase without me. And so I remember going to a specific store, and we are, again, in an area that is not very populated with people like us. And he walked into the store to go purchase the product that he wanted to purchase, and I kind of noticed from the car as I looked through the window just to make sure he was safe. I was close enough to make sure that he felt like he was doing this on his own, but that also I could protect him and be his mother.
And your mother's intuition was probably popping off.
Yes, definitely. And then, you see him walk in and in his innocence, he's going to get whatever it is that he wanted to spend his birthday money on, and he's so excited. And in the moment you see just, store workers looking at him, and you're wondering what are they thinking, and it causes a lot of anxiety for me to let him do it. But I'm like, oh, like he's got to grow. And he goes to the register after he gets his item, and he pays for it with his credit card, which he must have been 12, 13 at the time. And then he does the mistake of, the system asks you, do you want a receipt? Do you want to print the receipt, text the receipt, or do you want no receipt? So what is a kid that's 13 going to do? He's going to hit no receipt. And so he walks out, and as he's going to walk out, he's looked at and approached, and I had to kind of like jump out of the car and go in and say, like, is there an issue? He paid for these items. Son, where's your receipt? And it was a teaching moment for him because he didn't understand why it was so important.
Right.
He's like, I'm saving a tree, Mom. And I'm like, well, they're going to print the receipts regardless. The trees are already gone. But in his innocence, he didn't get the receipt.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think in moments like that, I've definitely had to, like, in the moment, stand up and explain to the worker in that moment that, like, this is his first time purchasing something, and you could have made this really good for him, but you kind of made it a soured experience to where some additional conversations just about how he's carrying himself, where he was and what he was doing financially with his credit card, and people that are watching him had to happen.
Right.
And so while it was a good teaching moment, I found that, like, if it's my kids, definitely I'm addressing it in the moment.
Did you say it with that tone and with those words? Did you explain it?
I did explain it. I was very calm and reserved and collected because I knew that the individuals who worked for the establishment may not have had education on what they were doing. I saw the innocence in him and wanted to protect him because he's mine, but I also saw the innocence in the lack of sophisticated training that corporation could have given to their employees to understand that you shouldn't just target specific individuals based on color, looks, age, whatever.
Right.
And so I educated, I believe them both.
Right.
But I spoke in, this calm manner to them to, like, let them understand, like, he's here. This was his first opportunity. You kind of messed that up for him. Here's some of the things you did. Right. And the responsiveness from the employees was good. It wasn't like an altercation. And I think that I taught my son something, but I taught those workers something that day too.
So this is where we differ. Yeah. Because you handled that very calmly. You used your words, and I use my words too. But I had a similar situation with my 12-year-old, and we were in a prominent grocery store, an organic grocery store. And like you, my children have their own debit cards. They get allowance just for doing good deeds and stuff. So when it's time to go grocery shopping, yes, I do most of the grocery shopping for the house, but I allow them to get the stuff that they want.
Yeah.
And so I had given my son I had given him permission to go into an aisle. Actually, he's a burrito nut. He likes burritos. And I was like, go figure it out, but don't buy the $7 one, buy the $2 one.
Yeah.
So he went, and there happened to be a grocer there, someone who was restocking the freezer. And now, mind you, he had cornrows in his hair. Mm-hmm. He did have a hoodie. It wasn't on, but it said his private school name. Yeah. And he had his debit card actually in a pouch hanging around his neck.
Okay.
And so he asked the lady if she can tell him the price of the burrito box.
Okay.
And without answering his question, she started what he received as chastising him about where his parents were. And so, my kids are bougie like y'all. They have phone watches. So he's calling me from 2 aisles down.
Right.
And he's like, Mom, can you come over here? This, what's the issue? Okay. So I'm like, it's an issue. Yeah. I go over there and I go, what's the issue? Yeah. And so she jumps in and she says, ma'am, I was just, I need to know. I was asking him where his parent was. And she was a Latina. And I say that to say that doesn't matter. Right. Because sometimes marginalized people will reinforce those biases and that discrimination.
Definitely.
There is no signage that said, and he's, they say once Black children become like 12, in the eyes of many, they're like men. In the eyes of law enforcement, definitely. So she didn't know how old he was. She didn't even ask how old he was. There's no signage there that said he couldn't have been there shopping. And she didn't answer his question. It's like, you're literally a grocer. Your job is to help people grocery shop.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was, he wasn't taking a burrito and figuring it out later. He literally asked you how much the burrito was.
Yeah.
All of that is processing quickly in my head as I walk 2 hours over.
I bet.
So I get there, I go, what's the problem? She said that. And I immediately focused in on her and said, listen, what is the real problem? I said, my son goes to private school, and this shouldn't matter.
Right.
Shouldn't matter.
Shouldn't
My
matter.
other son go to public school, and I'm a public school. I'm a product of public school. It shouldn't matter. But I had to drop those signals to her and actually speak in a certain way so she knew who she was dealing with. Because in that moment, the worst thing I could have done is be my authentic self, which is pop off, let that Bronx come out. I had to put my Georgetown voice on, which is how I operate a lot in corporate spaces and in public spaces.
Yeah.
I put my Georgetown voice on, right? And so in very, high level language, I explained to her that he's a private school student. He has his own money. I had given him permission to do this.
Yeah.
And the implication was that he was there to steal.
Yeah.
That's how I took that.
Right.
And perception is everything. And I said, and that's how he took it.
Yeah.
Because this young man who was excited about grocery shopping in your store several times removed paying your bills.
Right.
Because him shopping here pays your bills. You made it a bad social situation.
Yeah.
So we're going to right the ship right now. And I told her, I said, look, you're Latina, and I said somebody could be doing this to your little brother, your son, your whomever in another store right now. So you need to check yourself and watch how you are coming across to young Black boys. Like, you just need to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
And I said, now that we've gotten that straight, number one, is there an issue? She said, no. I said, number two, he asked you a question.
Yeah.
Answer my child's damn question.
Yeah.
How much is this damn burrito? Now, I came with a lot of passion. I
Uh-huh.
definitely used high level, like I said, good vocabulary. But immediately, unlike you, I already deduced what it was. That's 90% of the time I'm correct.
Yeah.
There is a small amount of time where I'm not correct. And I try to be mindful of kind of making those leaps.
Yeah.
But in this city and in my dealings,
I bet.
I'd be right most of the time.
Now, how do you think she took that? Do you think that changed her perception and it was something that she'll remember going forward?
I think immediately when I came at her before I made the connection of somebody could be doing this to your little brother or to you, I think it just came off as an angry mama bear.
Okay.
And that's also very valid.
Yeah.
Right. But I think for me, I'm a teacher. Very seldom do I try to speak without making a connection. And at the end of the day, even though she was a perpetuator of something that I saw was unfair to my son, she was also a woman of color.
Yeah.
And whether that's right or not, the person that I am felt the need to educate in that moment.
Yeah.
And say, look, I'm angry about what you did to my son, but that doesn't make you a bad person. And that doesn't mean that this situation has to end bad.
Yeah.
Let me put this in terms that really help you understand the entire perspective that I'm talking from. And I did see a little change of energy when I made that connection.
Understood.
And I kept it there. I didn't keep going and, make it a whole viral moment.
Right.
But I've gotten a lot of practice at that through our work together with the board.
Right.
How it's one thing to have a message. It's another way to deliver your message in a way that it can be received toward action.
Yeah.
Because you can rile and rave and yell all you want, but if you don't create a breeding ground for that message to be received and to be executed, then that's all for naught.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of practice, not only in my life, I went to a predominantly Caucasian private school as a 14-year-old. And you talk about authentic. At 14 years old, I was a lot more rough around the edges, straight out of the South Bronx, always very smart, always very intelligent, and could handle myself in social situations, but a little rough around the edges. And so it was originally in that situation where like in the Bronx, you have a disagreement with someone, y'all fighting after school.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then y'all find after that was the beauty of living in the hood, a lot of stuff didn't linger. You fought it out. If you won, you won. It's over. And if you lost, you pipe down. You wouldn't say no more.
Disappear for a couple months.
It's not always so clean in these environments. But when I went to private school, you would get kicked out for fighting.
Yeah.
Especially if you were there on a full scholarship like I was. So I had to learn how to say like F you with a smile. And I also had to learn some of that emotional intelligence you're talking about, where you have to like stop, process, and just kind of like filter yourself a little bit, so that at the end of the day, you're not reinforcing the stereotypes that brought you into that conversation in the first place.
Definitely.
Right? So if you're being called aggressive, the plight of that person is probably to push you into aggression.
Correct.
Who would say that to you? Anybody who says that to you wants to trigger aggression. Correct. Because who would go up to somebody who's known for being aggressive and trick? Like, who would do that?
Or they don't understand the implications of using that word and what it means in the different communities, right? Because it means one thing in our community. It means one thing in the Latino community. It means one thing in the Caucasian community. But it's something you need to be hyper aware can yield a response. And when you just bucket somebody and call them that, it's like, what was your intent? What was the intent? Because like Michael and Maya Angelou says, my favorite poet, right? Mm-hmm. It's not what you said, but they're going to remember how they made you feel. It's not about what you said to that person, but it's about how they feel. And so as a mentor, coach, guide, leading sales teams, leading my sons, just in family, it's like, you know, in the situations that we're in, you're running 2 aisles over, right? You were already hyper because you got a call from your son. So your adrenaline's already running, right? And had you been younger, had I been younger in those situations, it probably would have been a different response. But because of the years of age that we have, we know, and the situations we're in, and coaching people, teaching people, we know that the way we need to approach these conversations needs to be a thoughtful moment. But we've got to do it in a way where they can take something away from it, and that we didn't make them feel a certain way.
Right. And so there were two members of that audience there. So in my opinion, she needed to feel the heat, because sometimes people don't learn without heat.
That's right.
But I was able to temper the heat and bring it around, so that wasn't the only thing. But the other member of that audience was my son.
Yes. And his perception of it.
And his perception matters, but I also needed to teach him what bias and discrimination looks like, because these are privileged children I'm raising.
That's true.
No matter how I grew up, my whole plight in life was to create a better situation and a less painful situation for my children.
Yeah.
So their lens about discrimination and diversity and all that, inclusion, all that stuff is different.
Yeah.
I needed him to understand that this wasn't someone just giving you a hard time. This very well could have been some bias because you have braids, because you're a young Black boy, and all the implications of that. I also needed to teach him how to handle that.
Definitely. And I have the same issue with my sons, understanding that just because somebody tells you something doesn't mean it's actually true. We have the one thing that God gave you, which is a brain. So I need you to think about the scenario quick enough, still be respectful, right? Because I've given you the values and the morals to be respectful, but stand up for yourself. Have a sense of being and understanding and awareness. And that's what I'm working on with them now. You know, being 15 is being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the fact that somebody is looking at you and maybe they're perceiving something, you know, a certain way. Yeah. You know, I remember going to one of our favorite breakfast spots, and my son, they've always got these, like, while you're waiting, they've got like clothes and shiny things that you can buy and all sorts of candies. And, you know, he might want to go Christmas shopping. It's around the holidays, and he's picking it up and he's hiding it behind his back because he wants to go pay for it. So
he wants to surprise you.
He wants to surprise me. And so innocent, so sweet, so loving, right? So sweet he'd want to do that, but from the perception of the people around is like, oh my gosh, he's stealing, he's taking. And so it's a conscious effort to make sure that just growing them and making them aware of their surroundings and being able to stand up for themselves when something doesn't seem right. Yeah. But be respectful.
And especially, again, we keep harping on this, we have to teach our sons that emotional intelligence because one bad move on one bad day with one bad actor can be life or death for our boys.
Yeah, there's kids that have
one perception of aggression in the wrong moment with the wrong person on the other side of that could be their life. And that's a plight that is unique and specific to Black boys.
Yeah, and it's not even aggression,
and Black girls.
It's perceived aggression.
Yes, that's exactly what
it's
it is.
Not even
perception
aggression,
of
it's perceived aggression.
Because I told you, I mean, being in the fitness industry as a woman, I'm a minority, but definitely as a Black woman. You know how many times I go, as a leader and now doing the work that I do for the industry, and I'm literally the only person of my kind in a room of 500 of 1,000.
Wow.
And so, but as a woman, I'm also a minority because, right now, and we're trying to change this. Shout outs to Liz Clark from Health and Fitness Association, who is a woman who's the president of that organization, who is running stuff.
Yeah,
and she's a powerhouse. But in most cases, the women, they're a small group.
Yeah,
and so I have seen and commonly experience the same octave, the same terminology, if not words, being used by white males or males in general. And it just be brushed off as, cost of business. This is how we talk. And so I think that if that was being called out in those instances, it wouldn't feel the same way.
Right, definitely.
But it's that distinction of it only being addressed toward a Black woman. And that's the thing. You said something else, well, first of all, in that moment, all we were trying to do is teach our children financial, financial responsibility. I just want my children, God forbid if I left this earth tomorrow, I want them to know how to go eat.
Right. Get a receipt and use your debit card.
And that's really, really important. But I say that all to say that it is a unique experience to be a strong go-getter, take care of it yourself type.
Right.
And to build skills and qualities in our children that replicates that.
Right.
I noticed this in caring for my dad, actually. My dad was one of the most brave and strong men that I knew, and was definitely our safety net. But as I got older and became just like a woman, just, analyzing him as a woman, I realized that in some cases he really was dependent and felt comfortable, like, not taking charge, and not in the tough guy stuff. Yeah. I mean, in like the livelihood stuff. As he got older, even before his health started to take a turn, like, he put a lot of responsibility on me. And it wasn't because he was just being lazy. It's because I don't think he had all of the comfort and in some cases skills. Yeah. And I attribute that to my very strong Black woman grandmother who was 4'11". Wow. I'm a powerhouse. She used to say I'm 4'11", but I'm 6 feet tall. I have her, my middle name is her name. We share the same birthday. She's a Capricorn. My grandmother was like us. She took care of everything. She was the caregiver. She had 10 brothers and sisters. Wow. She cared for everybody, including her parents. And my father always had her to rely on when it came to the children. If he wanted to go out and date, she was there as the caregiver. She filled in a lot of gaps, such that when she passed away, and as he, definitely had to live life, he didn't have all the skills and he didn't have all of the comfort doing that. So then that got pitched off to me. Yeah. And it made me think about it a lot. And now I think about it as far as my boys are concerned. How do you manufacture rigor where on a daily basis we're not allowing rigor to happen? That's true. Yeah. It's like literally, how do you grow up as the son of women like us? Right. And how, and worse is I realized that I was holding my children accountable to the strength dynamics that I know they need to be and I want, but I'm not preparing them like I'm the culprit, right? Because in my desire to just get things done or to provide for them in the way that maybe I wasn't, I am literally giving them the easy path out. Yeah. But I'm criticizing them like, you're lazy. Figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
But I am not actually forcing them to do that. And it's just something I think about a lot. I told both of them this year, y'all gonna be mad at me because my response to you all year is gonna be figure it out.
Yep.
Figure it out. Figure it out. So anyway, I don't know if you experienced the same thing with your boys.
Definitely. We're in the figure it out.
Hashtag figure it out.
Yes, we're on the second year of the figure it out. I literally said it this morning. I said, my approach to you is much different because you've been in this household for 15 years, so you know my expectations.
Yeah.
You know what your chores are. You know what you're supposed to do when you wake up, making your bed, brushing your teeth, getting your hair done. You know when you leave the house, you need clean socks. All of your things need to match. Now we're at the point where, like, I've got to get you to manhood and doing the things that you need to be doing without me necessarily having to tell you.
Right.
I think a very important role of that is any male figure.
Yeah.
And we're in a household where my husband is there.
Yeah.
And I have had to step back because I'm like you, wanting to do all the things and wanting to run it, right? We there's a system to everything. Like there's a process every day we gotta do. It's boom, 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 chop, chop, right? That's why I was able to get here on time, right? It's like, the night before you're preparing for the next day. And not everybody operates in that manner. And so I will have to step back and let him step in to guide. And from the male's perspective, it's much more rough. It's much more rugged. And you know this with your kid's father, too. It's like that is a very important piece. And it doesn't have to be directly their father. There's a huge piece to, I think, the benefit of a child and having their father and knowing their father and all of that. But any male figure, your dad, my dad, a grandfather, males, period, need to participate more in those households. And when you have a powerhouse of a woman like you and I, sometimes you just need to pull us aside and give us the space to be subservient.
Yes.
Right?
But they have to create that space.
They have to create that space.
We're not going to give you the ball and then you fumble.
That's right. They have to create the space and we have to be able to trust that you can do it. And a lot of that comes down to, I think my upbringing, probably your upbringing of like always having to do things. I'm the oldest. So it was like you're watching for and caring for the younger kids. And they're like, you're not my mom. And you're like, but I'm going to get in trouble for this, because your parents are gone. I was a latchkey kid. I had my key around my neck. So when we got home from school, it was my responsibility. My dad maybe picked my favorite colored shoestring. We tied it around my neck. We put the key on there, and that's what got us in the door. And so I needed to make sure they did their homework. They had a snack, all of those things. And that carries over into motherhood, I've experienced, because, with my children, I'm like that. But I had to, and it's a conscious effort every day to step back and be like, okay, let him take charge.
So you just said so much. Let me get on the last part, and then I want to get back to this idea of stepping away. Because it's actually a skill set you have to hone if you're not naturally prone to that. But that's in all relationships. I often say people will sometimes think I'm a control freak, and I will tell people I'm a control freak by necessity, not by choice. Every day, I'm looking for opportunities to fall back. People don't know that. I am a selective extrovert, I call myself. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in social spaces, I do it at the highest level. But my default is to sit up in the room and watch ratchet reality TV by myself. Okay? That's what I can do. If I could do that all day and get paid, I would do that, right? And maybe with a significant other. But my default is actually to let you do the work and me chill, because for 44 years I've been doing the work. Yeah. And so it's that same thing in relationships. I'm like, I just want to be soft. Yeah. I don't want to be masculine. I don't what you would associate with masculine. Yeah. I lead 99% of the people in my orbit and throughout the day, 99% of my day. When I come home, I don't care to lead. Yeah. Now, if you push me in a position where I have to talk and lead and repeat, I will do that, because that's my behavior. Mm-hmm. But I'm not looking for that, and I'm actually hoping and praying for that moment where I don't have to be. So it's a two-way street. Our support systems, our partners, all of that have to cash in on that opportunity to take the lead and sort of save us. And preserve us. So that was very powerful. I was telling someone, I was like, I just want to be soft.
Yeah.
I just put me in my soft girl era,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's collaboration, right? It's
Yeah.
that key word of collaboration, which
Yeah.
the organization we both worked at, uses all of the time.
Right.
It's like collaborating in your household
Yeah.
with the other individuals that can influence that, whether it's a grandmother,
Yeah.
a grandfather,
Right.
a father, whatever it is. It's collaborating with those individuals, creating the space for them to teach all those other things. Because I think just in general, as a mom, you try to do everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, for infants, right?
A good mom.
Yeah, a good mom.
I always say I'm the best mom I know.
Yeah.
I know. But not good
Right.
moms. It might be easy for
Yeah.
the good moms. We're trying to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, from infant, you're making sure they're eating, they're feeding you. You're just taking control of that whole situation, and it continues
Right.
until they get older. And so it's like you've got to create the space to understand that, like the community around you can help raise the child,
Right.
and they all have equal feedback and guidance and things that can shape that individual. And we've
Right.
got to create space to bring that in. And collaboratively, we do that every day at work, right? Like we're collaborating with different departments. You're collaborating with the
Right.
people that you trust and
In
know.
theory, you are.
In theory, in most cases.
And actually, probably the goal
Yeah.
is that collaborate. I love collaboration.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite core values. It's a personal value, core value, all of that. But wrapped up in collaboration is this very important skill set that I think a lot of people lack.
Yeah.
And I talked about it on a previous episode. It's called, I don't know about y'all, but I am just learning so much from my conversation with Tabitha. And it's just been amazing to connect with someone who kind of gets me in a number of different ways. And I hope that you all have experienced that similarly. We left you with a cliffhanger, getting into diversity and collaboration and all of that. And so I want you to stay tuned, because in the next episode, we're going to really dive in. We're going to dive into this idea of collaboration plus or minus skill sets that actually make that happen. And how do we get there? And what does that mean? And what doesn't it mean? So stay tuned. But going back to this show, I want you all to really dive in, reflect, and maybe on your behalf or other people's behalves about all the different things that strong Black women, parents, leaders, all the processes that we have to go through on a daily basis just to keep all the things together. And I know you all can relate to that as working professionals, some of you juggling multiple jobs, some of you parents, some of you as spouses and support systems. And I want you to know that Tabitha and I get you. We've got your back. So if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to continue this conversation with me directly, please send me a message through the website, www.livelearnexercise.com. You can also comment on YouTube or on Spotify, and definitely DM me through Instagram and TikTok. But for now, let's close it out. Know that I get you, I hear you, I see you, I respect you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Before we go, let's take care of what we know we got to, the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or affiliate content providers. The information shared is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, including but not limited to medical, psychological, or coaching services. Listeners are encouraged to consult with their qualified practitioners for guidance tailored to their personal needs and circumstances.